Welcome to PandaAudioBooks, the perfect place for a huge collection of fantasy novels. If you enjoy my content and want to support my work, a small contribution via PayPal is greatly appreciated. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell to stay updated with our latest audiobook chapters. Chapter 1036, Joining Hands. Grand Immortal Shu coldly laughed and released a silver streak with a wave of his hand, shattering one of the statues. I didn't expect that fellow Daoist Han would dare to follow us. I am truly impressed. Soon after the statue's destruction, the altar flashed with white light, restoring it to its original form. Then it continued to wave its golden blade, releasing cuts of light into the air. Han Li calmly replied, "Why wouldn't I dare? A divine spirit treasure has appeared in front of us, and you still intend on starting trouble." When Lin Yinping heard this, hostility flared on her face, but just as she was about to speak, she was interrupted by the silver-winged night fiend. "Don't forget that we have things to settle as well. Although there is a treasure in front of us, I wouldn't mind settling our debts first." The lion hawk next to him snarled in a clearly threatening gesture. "Oh, is that so?" Han Li replied with a smile. Gui Ling sighed, stepping forward to stand at his side. The night fiend's expression shifted upon seeing her. "Fellow Daoist Gui, what are you doing? Why are you together with that human?" An ominous glint flashed from her eye, and she yelled, "Do you truly not know, or are you playing the fool? After you made use of me, you only cared for your own life soul tiles and tossed me aside, leaving mine in his hands. If I want to preserve my life, I can only obey him." The cultivators were amazed to hear this. The night fiend wore slight embarrassment, and the roaring lion hawk immediately closed its mouth. The three had a friendship that spanned back many years. If it were possible, the two would have liked to help retrieve her life soul tile. However, the circumstances at the time were peculiar. They only managed to grab their own tiles due to luck. They truly had no method to grab Gui Ling's. Furthermore, Han Li had been particularly cunning and immediately departed as soon as he grabbed the tile along with a few other treasures, making a clean escape while the rest had been trapped by the might of the Four Skies ruler. The night fiend's expression returned to normal and he sullenly stared at Han Li. "Fellow Daoist Gui, don't worry. I'll help you take it back." Gui Ling glared. "Now that we reached this far, there is no point. I have no choice but to obey. If you get in our way, don't blame me for being ruthless." The demon wryly chuckled and said nothing else, but he continued to leer at Han Li. Han Li indifferently ignored him as he began to form a plan of action. If the night fiend truly intended on finding trouble, he would have Gui Ling contest him. Lady Mu then sweetly smiled. "Fellow Daoist Han, how did you battle against old Devil Qian Fair? Since he's yet to appear, could it be that he's met his end at your hands?" The words came as a shock to everyone present. Han Li raised his brow at her provocation, and turned to look at her and the beautiful young woman at her side. "So you were the one who spied on our battle. I've yet to have the pleasure of knowing your name. Since you don't know who we are, you must be fellow Daoist Han. We are from the Nanjiang's Immortal Form sect. We can be considered half of the masters of this place. Brother Han's face is quite unfamiliar. Could it be you aren't from the Great Jin?" Lady Mu had a well-bestowed body and a face of ordinary beauty. As she spoke flirtatiously, an icy coldness seeped out from deep in her eyes. "My origins have nothing to do with our current affairs. As for my battle with old Devil Qian, we merely sparred for a bit before eventually parting ways. Has that old devil still not appeared? It seems I have arrived first." Han Li spoke without a change in expression. At his side, Gui Ling rolled her eyes but remained silent. Lady Mu was doubtful of his words, but she also couldn't believe that he was capable of killing such a famed figure. As such, she silently smiled when she heard his unfriendly reply. The Yi clan cultivators now looked at Han Li with newfound importance considering this new information and exchanged a glance with one another. They then withdrew and stopped attacking the stone puppets in the spell formation for the time being. The white-robed late-nascent soul stage scholar blinked and sent Han Li a voice transmission. "Fellow Daoist, It seems there are grudges between you and them. I am the Yi clan Grand Elder, the commanding power of the Great Jin's imperial family. Would you be interested in joining hands? We only need the 8th spirit ruler. All the other treasures in the hall will be yours. What do you say? Han Li was stunned to hear this, but maintained a face of indifference and didn't reply. Seeing that Han Li possessed great power and controlled a high-grade spirit beast Gui Ling, he continued, "Fellow Daoist, don't think that we're being greedy. If you manage to somehow acquire that treasure, you won't be able to last long by yourself." Han Li frowned and eventually replied through voice transmission, "Your Yi clan is the greatest noble house in the Great Jin. Why do you need the help of an outsider like me? Didn't you have 2 great cultivators when entering this place? Where is the other one?" His expression stirred and began to look around at the faces of these unfamiliar cultivators. He felt a bit of relief now seeing that the Elder Devil wasn't counted among their numbers, but trepidation still lingered in his heart. The scholar's heart trembled and chuckled a bit. "I didn't expect that Brother Han would know of that person. To tell you the truth, he should be within this pagoda. Although I have no contact with him, I'm sure he'll come to aid us during our time of need. Perhaps he's already entered the palace." Han Li paused for a moment and replied, "Is that so? But if there is nothing else in the palace, I would only be fanning resentment with these people for nothing." Seeing that Han Li was somewhat tempted, the Yi clan Grand Elder hurriedly pushed, "That's a simple matter to resolve. We've already searched through other areas of the mountain and acquired many powerful treasures in passing. If you gain nothing from the palace, I am willing to hand them all over to you. If you fear that they would take revenge in the future, we can have you become a guest elder of the clan, or even pay you a sum of 1 million spirit stones." Because the large-headed eccentric and some others had disappeared, the scholar felt great apprehension moving forward now that their current situation had fallen out of control. As such, he spared no effort to rope in Han Li swiftly. After a moment's thought, Han Li chuckled and agreed. "I will take the offer of 1 million spirit stones. If worst to worst, I will just depart from the Great Jin." "Most excellent. Then the matter is settled. Fellow Daoist can act according to his discretion," the scholar said with an exceedingly happy tone. As the artifact spirit linked to his soul-joined magic treasure, Silver Moon was able to clearly listen in on the deal. She couldn't help but ask, "What? You truly wish to hand over the 8th spirit ruler to them?" "Of course not," Han Li leisurely replied. "The Yi clan is conscious of their own weakness, and I also need their help. With only an oral agreement, neither side is obliged to hold to their terms." Silver Moon sighed. "I also think this is the case. When the Great Formation is broken through, you will have to prepare to acquire the ruler and make use of all your abilities to escape." Han Li smiled and said little else. At that moment, the scholar channeled magic power into his voice and loudly yelled, "Everyone, since fellow Daoist Han has arrived, we have a greater chance at destroying this ancient formation. How about we include the fellow Daoist in our previous arrangement?" Grand Immortal Shu coldly snorted, "We're already enough to destroy the formation. We don't need another. We will be capturing him." The scholar's expression sank and he sullenly said, "Brother Shu must be joking. I have no objection should you choose to do so, but do you think you'll have the time to play around?" "That is true," Lady Mu swept her hair to the side and said, "The High Zenith Sex Master Sable and the Heavenly Devil Sex Daoist 7 Wonders are soon to arrive from the outside. We maybe have a day at most to acquire the treasure. When the greatest sects of the Devil and Righteous Dao come here, do you believe that the treasure will belong to any of us?" Apart from the 3 demons present, all of the cultivators felt great shock upon hearing the names of these 2 sects. The Yi clan Grand Elder in particular instantly paled. Grand Immortal Shu and Lin Yinping glanced at each other and their previous emotions were nowhere to be seen. Although the Endless Skies Temple and the Heavenly Devil sect had friendly relations, they definitely wouldn't remotely give them an even share of Kunwu Mountain's treasures. "Fine," Grand Immortal Shu begrudgingly spoke. "Let's have him join in breaking the restriction. Once it's destroyed, the Divine Spirit treasure will belong to whoever can take it." The others raised no objections, harboring their own intentions. Han Li's lip curled up when he saw this. He then released a dozen golden swords with a shake of his sleeve and began to attack the statues below. The others were also unwilling to delay any further. As for the statues down below, They immediately began to move again and wave their sabers towards the air, filling the sky with slices of light and thunderous booms. Chapter 1037. Breaking the Formation. As the others continued to attack the formation surrounding the palace, the two Immortal Form sect elders were having a secret discussion. The junior woman sent a voice transmission to Lady Mu with a worried tone. "Senior Martial Sister, must we truly aid them in breaking the formation?" Elder Xiong mentioned that the palace was connected with the Elder Devil Ancestor's seal. And how was the Eight Spirit Ruler discovered here? "Don't worry, Junior Martial Sister," Lady Mu quickly calmed. "This isn't the place where the devil is sealed, or the Dragon Call crest would have reacted by now. As for the reason why we must break this formation, it isn't solely for the ruler. We must reach the 9th floor of the devil-suppressing pagoda to re-strengthen the seal, as it has the core of the formation. However, there is no opening to the next floor, leaving the palace as the only place it could be. I should have explained sooner." "So it was like that. I was wondering why Senior Martial Sister had dragged me here." "But the ruler," Lady Mu interrupted. "The Eight Spirit Ruler is a treasure that the ancestors of our sect had left behind. It is only proper for us to acquire it." "That is true, but I fear it would be difficult for us to fight for it." The beautiful woman glanced at the cultivators and the demons around them and wore a hesitant expression. "Perhaps, but don't forget that you have the Four Skies Ruler, a replica of that very divine spirit treasure. When the fight for the ruler occurs, activate it and see if it has any impact. Even if it isn't effective, Elder Xiong could come at any moment, and they will be forced to hand it over to him. He has a deep relationship with our sect. If we plead with him, he will be certain to give us some benefits even if he doesn't directly hand the Eight Spirit Ruler over to us." A cunning glint shone from Lady Mu's eyes. "That's also true," the beautiful woman then paused in thought and worriedly asked. "But what about that black formation from the room that we came from? Could it be that is where the Elder Devil is sealed? It is unfortunate that it had lost its effect, or we could have taken a look at it first." "It's possible. Our sect records don't mention any specific information on the Elder Devil's seal." As the two were continuing their secret conversation, the Elder Devil's sacred ancestor was attempting to break free of its constraints in a hidden space nearby. The black mirror, the jade lotus, the ring, the authority token and the small black bottle was floating above the huge two-headed wolf, each releasing a black beam of light down below into its body. This produced a layer of eerie devilish light, pushing the talismans and chains a foot off the wolf's hide. The restraints twinkled with light, activating their restrictions in response to this. But the most notable of these was the yellow mirrors that surrounded it. They all simultaneously let out a drone, and the bright beams of light had been strengthened, turning them several times thicker. The two-headed and four-armed Elder Devil was currently floating in the air and striking the 5 devilish artifacts with spell seals. His two faces wore grave expressions as they stared at the silver wolf in the air. The black teleportation formation below them was covered in a shroud of grey light, causing temporary disruption and prevent any others from barging in. At the moment, the black wolf had assumed a completely devilish appearance. Not only was its horn several times larger, but black lightning also flashed from its surface, occasionally releasing pangs of thunder. The wolf's eyes were lit with a purple devil flame and began to incinerate the nearby talismans through merely glancing at them. After the infusion of devilish chi from the 5 artifacts, the sacred ancestor's soul fragment had accumulated enough chi and finally began to break free of its constraints. As time slowly ticked by, the wolf had eventually destroyed all of the nearby talismans and let out a series of howls. Black light began to sway across its body and it grew even larger, as if turning into a world-rending god. The net of yellow light beams managed to barely suppress for a short while, but the wolf's tyrannical expansion had soon broken through, causing all of the mirrors to simultaneously burst into specks of starlight. The originally unremarkable heavenly star chains, however, brightly glowed and expanded, remaining tightly wrapped around the huge wolf without even a second's pause. Furthermore, the chains had white flame ignite across its length. The smell of scorched flesh instantly filled the air as the holy inferno burned through the wolf's pelt, disregarding the devilish light that surrounded it. The wolf head grimaced in agony as it felt the white flames burn it, and a trace of fear even appeared on its face. She quickly muttered, "Pure yang bone fire. I didn't think that those cultivators were actually capable of fusing this demonic flame with the chains. This will be troublesome." Then, the black wolf head suddenly raised its head and deafeningly howled. Black lightning surged from its horn, releasing a ball of lightning to the sky, only for it to burst into countless arcs of black to rain down on the chains. In the blink of an eye, white flames and black lightning raged against one another as if they were two pythons coiled on chains and let out strange muffled sounds. The head hadn't stopped there. With purple flames surging from its eyes, it let out a soft incantation and opened its mouth again, this time spitting out a mist of inky light all around it, engulfing the world in a wave of black. Deafening crashes could be heard as it wiped away the dense number of restrictions in the distance. When the felt joy elder devil when he saw this. Although the devil ancestor's soul fragment was trapped for countless years, its abilities hadn't suffered in the least. Outside Kunwu Mountains, as the opening to the seal, there were a few hundred cultivators gathered around, less than half the number that had gathered there earlier. However, Master Sable still remained sitting at the opening and wore a solemn expression. This was due to the dozen nascent soul cultivators that were heads of the crowd. If it weren't for the fame of the High Zenith sect and his high cultivation, he suspected they would have impatiently head inside already. But even so, he couldn't afford to block them for much longer. Many of the nascent soul cultivators present actually belonged to a few great sects. Even the High Zenith sect wasn't willing to provoke them. Eventually, a mid-nascent soul old man with a face glowing red emerged from the crowd. "Master Sable, what are you planning? I didn't come here to waste my time." Master Sable sighed and opened his eyes from meditation. With an even tone, he replied, "Fellow Daoist Luo, didn't I already tell you? The opening is in no shape for people to pass through. I am only blocking you because I don't wish for your lives to be spent in vain." The old man Luo annoyedly retorted, "Then why did I hear that the Yin Sifting sect and Immortal Form sect cultivators have already entered?" Master Sable calmly replied, "That was because Lady Mu had the Sun Moon Shuttle and Brother Shu had the Keen Spirit Peacock to brave the danger. If Brother Luo also has one of the 3 great spirit shuttles, I won't block you any further. But you can wait a few more days, the passage will stabilize." A few more days. Then all the treasures will be long taken. Another unhappy voice sounded out, coming from a silhouette shrouded in green light. He floated from the crowd and walked forward. So it was the Jade Wisp Horizon's fellow Daoist Yu. "You've also come." When Master Sable saw this person, he unconsciously frowned. Although he wasn't someone from the great sects, his poison techniques were well known in the Great Jin. Even he didn't want to provoke such a difficult enemy. In truth, he didn't actually care about them. He wouldn't bat an eye if they all lost their lives to the unstable opening. But he had previously acquired a secret report that the breach in the seal was the doing of the Yi clan. Just as he was pondering about the nature of the Yi clan's plans, he immediately received an order from his sect, requiring him to only enter with the assistance of the Heavenly Devil sect's Daoist 7 Wonders and to prevent anyone else from entering. The one who had given him the order was a peculiar existence in their sect, one who even he didn't dare to disobey. Why else would he exert himself for such a troublesome affair? But since the order called for 2 late nascent soul cultivators, the matter can't be simple. As he had expected, he soon acquired a jade slip not long after he was guarding the opening, detailing the information of what lay inside. When the old man read through it, he felt greatly startled and couldn't help but regret ever allowing old Devil Qian and the others to enter first. But now that matters have reached this stage, he didn't dare to have any more enter the seal as well. If this number of people all entered, who knew what problems they could stir? If the sealed entity was released, nobody in the mortal world could hope to stand against it. Furthermore, there were divine spirit treasures that couldn't be allowed to fall into the hands of others. Chapter 1038, Devil Restricting Ring. Confronted against the 2 impatient cultivators, Master Sable dryly coughed. As he considered what to say to pacify them, a cold voice chimed from the distance. "What? Do you plan on charging through even with both the Heavenly Devil sect and High Zenith sect blocking you? Suddenly, Old Man Luo's expression vastly changed. A black light shot before them from the distant horizon. It faded to reveal a hook-nosed middle-aged man in black scholar robes. As soon as he appeared, the old man's bearing turned completely gloomy. Daoist 7 Wonders. He coldly gasped. It wasn't to say that 7 Wonders was superior to Master Sable, but that he was notorious for his extremely cruel acts as the Heavenly Devil sect's enforcement elder. As Old Man Luo was only a mid-nascent soul cultivator, he was entirely unwilling to upset him. Fellow Daoist 7 Wonders must be joking. Since your esteemed sects view this matter with such severity, it seems the passage must truly be dangerous. Waiting a few more days is perfectly acceptable. The old eccentric chuckled and drew back into the crowd. The cultivator in green mist silently withdrew as well. With the appearance of the top sects of both the righteous and devilish Tao joining hands, dissonance stirred in the crowd. As of current, even an idiot would know that whatever being sealed was of grave importance. Why else would the two greatest sects be willing to spare such a strong force? But under the pressure of two vastly powerful factions, the vagrants and those from smaller sects didn't dare complain. Even those from the larger sects were unwilling to stir up trouble. 8 Heavenly Devil sect cultivators flew in their direction, all at nascent soul stage. As soon as they arrived, they silently took out formation plates and spell flags, quickly erecting a huge restriction in the blink of an eye and creating a dense white mist over the seal's opening. The High Zenith and the Heavenly Devil sect cultivators then disappeared into the formation without a trace. Right after, many of the cultivators that wished to observe them looked at each other in dismay. Inside the restriction, Master Sable sighed and smiled to Daoist 7 Wonders. Fortunately, you made haste. I fear I wouldn't have been able to ward them off much longer. Your reputation should strike them with fear. The middle-aged scholar put on an insincere smile and said, Do you wish to yell my name to those outside? Master Sable dryly laughed. Perish the thought. All right, let's get back to the matter at hand, 7 Wonders frowned and said. These orders are not something we can simply disobey. On the way, I heard that the Yin Sifting sect already managed to enter. Did you let them in because Old Devil Qian be among them? Before I came, Old Devil Qian and a few vagrant cultivators had already entered. Later on, some Yin Sifting sect and a few Endless Sky Temple cultivators entered as well with one of their Grand Immortals in tow. At the time, I hadn't known the grave importance of the seal and wasn't resolved to block them. 7 Wonders snorted and gloomily said, I didn't expect the Yi clan to use their Divine Spirit treasure replica as a diversion, and use the opportunity to come here and seize genuine Divine Spirit treasures. If it weren't for the spies we placed in their ranks long ago, we would have been entirely in the dark. Master Sable sighed. It is a pity. The Yi clan had kept a close watch over their plans. Although our informants had known of this some time ago, they didn't have an opportunity to report it. They were only able to destroy a few of their spell formations before escaping. Had we discovered this information earlier, we would have never given them the opportunity in the first place. What's the worth of a Divine Spirit treasure if the incarnation of the ancient devil ancestor is released? There will be nothing that can be done if we allow it. Given how long it's been since Old Devil Qian had entered, he should have already found the site where the devil was sealed. He isn't a fool. He won't do something that won't benefit himself. However, those Endless Sky cultivators are another story. They aren't from the Great Jinn. Oh. I heard that your sect had a relationship with the Endless Sky Temple. I didn't expect you'd be wary of them. What relationship? We merely conduct deals in our own interest, 7 Wonders indifferently replied. How can a seal placed by the ancients be so easily broken? So long as they hadn't yet dissolved the Elder Devil's restrictions, we should be able to stop their rampant actions. And even if the Elder Devil incarnation escapes, it will have been greatly weakened after spending so many years imprisoned. With the 5 devil restriction bans I've brought along, we should be able to subdue it. The devil restricting bans? Those ancient artifacts passed down from the spirit realm. Master Sable's eyes lit up at the mention of it. 7 Wonders coldly smiled. That's right. When the Elder Devils invaded our world, The cultivators from the spirit realm brought along a treasure specifically meant to deal with the high-grade elder devils. With the 5 devil suppression bands, even the incarnation of the elder devil sacred ancestor will be helpless. Master Sable's expression calmed and he said, "That will be good. I was originally worried that the trip would prove dangerous. I didn't expect you would be able to find these treasures." "Who said that I found them?" "These bands were given to me from the same person who gave me my orders. The one from the High Zenith sect didn't send you a treasure to deal with them." The scholar shot a doubtful glance at the old man. "When I left, I was particularly busy and hadn't the time to prepare anything. However, I did bring the heaven-bound blade. I should be able to offer some assistance," Master Sable said with a wry smile. 7 Wonders nodded. "That treasure will be suitable enough. However, there is something I still don't understand. Why are we prevented from taking the devil's life unless it's absolutely necessary? Why would they want us to seal it again, so it can break out again in the future?" 7 Wonders pondered for a moment and seriously replied, "Who knows, the ancient cultivators hadn't killed the devil either. There should be some extraordinary circumstances behind this. Let's just follow our orders." Master Sable pensively nodded and then glanced in the direction of the seal's opening. "It is as you say. Let's save ourselves the trouble and not be so meddlesome. Did Brother 7 Wonders come here on the flying tortoise chariot? Let's hurry inside." 7 Wonders chuckled and shook his sleeve, summoning a ball of light. It circled around them before massively expanding in size, turning into a 10-meter-long chariot. It appeared similar to a huge tortoise shell. Soon after, Master Sable and 7 Wonders gave orders to the cultivators accompanying them, and the two entered the carriage in the blur before shooting into the seal's opening in a streak of black. The Great Pillar Mountain Range was one of the 4 grand spirit veins in the Great Jinn. It belonged to the Righteous Tao's #1 sect, the High Zenith sect. Apart from the Heavenly Devil sect and the Myriad Demon Valley, no other faction on the continent could compete in terms of power. This resulted in over 100 various spirit mountains falling under the control of the High Zenith sect. Ice Soul Valley was an unremarkably small place among these mountains. It was entirely lacking in spiritual chi, and bone-chilling yin winds haunted the location, coating the valley walls in an icy sheet year-long. This place of seemingly little value was actually one of the forbidden areas of the High Zenith sect that few knew of. What was particularly mysterious was the illusion formation concealing the valley entrance. Outside from these few restrictions, there were no cultivators standing guard. In truth, no one had dared to step foot near the place for several hundred years. Even the high-ranking elders of the sect didn't dare to step inside. They merely stood outside and spoke towards the valley with a respectful tone. Right around when Daoist 7 Wonders and Master Sable both entered Kunwu Mountain, a grey-robed old man with a sickly appearance appeared outside the valley. He glanced at the illusion formation at the entrance with ridicule and let out a cough, then flying inside in a streak of green light. A short moment later, he appeared at the end of the valley and coldly looked at the huge ice wall in front of him with his face sank. He spoke with a soft, cold voice. "Old Ghost Bai, I know you're here. There is no need to hide from visitors in your coffin." Soon, his words were repeated with deafening echoes throughout the valley. The ice walls quaked without end as if they were on the verge of collapse. The grey-robed old man didn't seem perturbed by this and narrowed his eyes as he stood in front of the ice wall. Chapter 1039, Deity Transformation Cultivators. A long sigh was carried by the wind, echoing throughout the deep ice walls. "Fellow Daoist who, I don't remember inviting you here. Weren't you cultivating at Devil Cliff Mountain? Just what are you doing at Ice Soul Valley?" The old grey-robed old man snorted and unhappily said, "You think I want to be here? It's about Kunwu Mountain." A neutral voice echoed back, "Oh, Kunwu Mountain. Didn't we already leave this matter to our disciples? What's left to talk about it?" The grey-robed old man sullenly said, "If only it was so simple. You might not know this, but that old ghost Xian had met mishap on the mountain." "Old ghost Xian?" Are you sure? Of all the old coots left, he was the strongest among us. The voice shouted with disbelief. The grey-robed old man coldly answered, I'm not too sure myself, but old eccentric Feng personally reported it to me with his flying sword. You should understand that he had always been good friends with that old ghost and that they exchanged primal soul pearls. Recently, Kunwu Mountain made an appearance into the world, and old ghost Xiong happened to be nearby, but not long after he entered, his primal soul pearl fell dim. If he isn't grievously injured, then he must be trapped in a restriction of some kind. In any case, he isn't in a good spot. After a short pause, he continued, and just as it so happens, a great problem has come to find old eccentric Feng and he isn't able to personally go and assist. As such, he's requested that we go take a look. He said he's willing to give us 2 blood chi pills as compensation. 2. How generous. That pill will lengthen our lifespan for tens of years. But how did eccentric Feng know that Ghost Xiong entered the mountain? The voice asked with a cautious tone. That old ghost has always been cunning. Whenever he sets out to do something, he leaves behind a contingency plan in case anything happens. Before he entered Kunwu Mountain, he sent a message to eccentric Feng with a flying sword. It seems his actions had proved fruitful and now we're here to save him. How about it? Would fellow Daoist be interested in taking a look? It would take us quite some time to refine those on our own, the old man spoke enticingly. The voice then paused in thought. Not long after, he then said, I'll leave it alone. You can go, but I won't follow. What? Does the blood chi pill really not tempt you? The old man asked with surprise. The voice coldly replied, I am indeed tempted, but I fear what I encounter isn't worth the risk. What do you mean? Even if that devil truly escaped confinement, if we join hands, we have nothing to fear. What is there to fear? No matter how fierce it has been in the past, after being suppressed for so many years, its abilities shouldn't be much higher than our own. It can't have been as domineering as it had in ancient times, daring to use spatial tempering stage abilities in the mortal world. Then why not go? The old man frowned. If I hadn't taken the fire essence jujube, perhaps. But now that I am using the fruit to break through my bottleneck, I can't miss this opportunity, no matter how minor the changes may be. The old man's expression revealed alarm. The spiritual item you acquired was, did you take it directly? Of course, that's the only way to receive sufficient fire spiritual power. A glint flashed from the old man's eye and he sullenly said, you actually did. Don't you know that fruit's spiritual power is overbearing if you don't refine it into a pill? It is enough to ignite the magic power in your body. Hadn't we become all too familiar with the dangers the last time we met? I am well aware. But if I don't take the risk, I could perish within these walls of ice. Or perhaps I will take Ghost Xiong and eccentric Feng's example, and let go of my grand abilities to play the fool. Mingle with low-grade cultivators in fear that using too much magic power would take my life, the voice said with a mocking tone. Brother Bai's words are a bit harsh. They are only doing that in order to find the reverse spirit streams that the spirit world cultivators used in the past to descend into this world. Without reaching late deity transformation stage, we will need to use these passages to ascend. After all, the cultivators of the higher realms were capable of suppressing their magic power and forcefully descend onto our world. If we find these passages, we can temporarily raise our magic power and use them to enter the spirit realm. Ever since the world changed in the past, countless of our fellow deity transformation brethren went searching throughout most of the mortal world for any reverse spirit streams. If any existed, they should have been found by now, or they could be located in the far reaches of the ocean, meaning they could hardly be found at all. Perhaps. But in any case, pursuing our only hope of ascending to the spirit realm is better than sitting around dying. The grey-robed old man wore a helpless expression. Rather than looking for reverse spirit streams, wouldn't it be better to cultivate to late deity transformation stage? But if it weren't for the ancient devil realm's wickedness in having our world's strength turning sparse, we wouldn't be stuck at this stage to begin with, the man chimed resentfully. There is no use in cursing them, Brother Bai, the old man gloomily said. With the last of the ancients that had ascended, it will be some time until the next cultivator manages to reach late deity transformation stage and ascend, and even then, their numbers will be incredibly few in comparison to ancient times. Recently, the situation has turned even worse. In nearly 10,000 years, not a single cultivator managed to ascend. Not one. It is no wonder eccentric Feng and the others wanted to put their trust into finding a reverse spirit stream. They can do whatever they please. As for me, I'll be cultivating in seclusion. Let's end our talk here. You already know what I intend to do. Either refuse eccentric Feng's request or head out on your own. Forgive me for not personally sending you off. In the future, I will be asking my disciples to seal off this valley. I won't be seeing anybody else until I fully refine the jujube. Make sure to inform the others. After that, the voice ceased speaking and silence filled the air. The old man wore a sullen expression and lingered near the ice for a moment more before stamping down his foot. For 2 blood chi pills, I only need to risk danger once. The extra 100 years of life should be more than enough to compensate for my loss of origin essence. With that muttered, his body glowed in green light and he shot out from the ice valley. In front of the palace on the 8th floor of the devil-suppressing pagoda, Han Li expressionlessly held his hands in an incantation gesture and combined a dozen of his flying swords as they let out a resounding hum, instantly turning them into a 10-meter-long cleaver that flashed down at the palace in golden light. With a huge boom, the sword cleaved through a white jade statue and shattered it to dust. Its remains faintly shook before ultimately lying still. Han Li faintly nodded, then commanding his sword to return. This was the 4th statue that he had thoroughly destroyed. The great formation around the palace seemed to make the statues undying, but in truth, they stopped regenerating after being shattered several times. However, this was only possible with a great number of nascent soul cultivators attacking the formation simultaneously. If it were only a couple, it would take far too much magic power to entirely eliminate the formation. As for the golden sabers the stone statues wielded, they were made from a material unknown to him. Not only were they incredibly incisive, they all also had devilbane properties. But what particularly caught his attention was the blades of light that the sabers released. The cultivators of devil techniques wouldn't dare to approach them as they would be able to penetrate through devilish chi as if it were thin air. As for those that wished to enter, the statues would ignore those on the outside and simultaneously release a combined attack in the direction of the trespasser, forcing them to flee back as the attack seemed to cover every angle. And as it turned out, the spell formation was an overlap of several kinds of restrictions. Even after destroying the main body, they wouldn't be able to rush in. Of course, no one was about to take this risk and simply bore through attacking the statues nearby. After they were finished being destroyed, they would be able to tear down the rest of the formation with less effort. After Han Li struck the statue in front of him, he suddenly frowned and looked around. He only saw a few more puppets that still moved. When he thought that, Silver Moon suddenly yelped from his mind and began to sob in pain. In his alarm, he couldn't help but ask, "What's going on? Is there something wrong?" His voice carried a tone of concern. "It isn't important. There is something in the palace that has awakened. It gives me an important, strange feeling as if it is familiar." My head. After forcing out those few words, all Silver Moon could do was groan. Chapter 1040, Long Meng and Ling Long. When Han Li heard this, his heart trembled and he hastily looked at the palace's spell formation center. The building appeared exactly the same as it had before. Confused, he thought to ask Silver Moon another question when an enormous pressure surged from the palace hall, followed by a heart-rattling explosion. Yellow light shot out from the top of the hall, a large hand moving to grab the 8 spirit ruler. All of the cultivators present were shocked by this and several of them even yelped in surprise. At that moment, a sweet playful laugh echoed from the palace. Then, the space around the 8 spirit ruler began to fluctuate before a silhouette with disheveled hair appeared. He opened his mouth as soon after, releasing a ray of light that flashed like lightning, striking the hand and easily penetrating it. A miserable screech sounded out and the large hand quickly disappeared. Soon after, a silhouette wrapped in yellow light flew up and quickly shot away. The disheveled figure chuckled and flickered in an inhuman blur. It somehow stretched itself over 30 meters away in instant pursuit. The The person in yellow light was greatly alarmed and he released a crimson arrow from his mouth. This was an attack formed from blood essence and was incredibly fast, but the other person simply blurred from sight and the arrow passed through its body as if it were an illusion. A miserable scream immediately called from the yellow silhouette and soon, he employed an unknown secret technique, scattering himself into mist before condensing back together a distance away. At that moment, his complexion was deathly pale and body blood-stained. There were several long claw marks raking his body and one of his arms was a bloody stump. Seventh uncle. The Yi clan elders shouted out with disbelief at his appearance. This sorry figure was the large-headed eccentric. The Yi clan's grand elder was particularly shocked by his sudden appearance. Although Han Li and the others didn't know the identity of this person, a sweep of their spiritual sense revealed that he was a late nascent soul cultivator. As a result, their shock was no lesser than the others. As for the disheveled figure that chased after him, his hair covered his face, but from his appearance, it vaguely matched that of the grand elder of the sacred poison sect, Xianxia. However, the words that left his mouth spoke with the charming voice of a young woman. If it weren't for the vast abilities of those gathered and the presence of the eight spirit ruler, Han Li would have fled. When the other cultivators saw that something was amiss, they all looked at the disheveled man with baffled gazes. He was able to reduce a late nascent soul cultivator to such a miserable state. Could he be a deity transformation cultivator? As the thought flashed through their minds, they felt their hearts drop. But when this mysterious figure noticed that the large-headed eccentric escaped, he let out a cold chuckle and pursued him no further and instead turned his attention to the others outside of the spell formation. His gaze was as cold as a sharp blade, inspiring a fearsome awe in their souls as it swept past them. The weakest amongst them swayed and was staggered a few steps back before managing to regain their balance. Han Li inwardly cursed as blue light shined from his eyes, hastily channeling the bright sight spirit eyes to block the effect. But when the man's gaze swept past him, Han Li felt as if was immersed in ice and his complexion paled. "Yi! You are..." A woman's voice yelped from the mysterious figure and his gaze focused on Han Li. He seemed to be looking at him in disbelief. At that moment, his storage pouch stirred and a white light shot out, circling once in the air before landing in front of him. In a silver flash, the summoned fox took the form of a beautiful young woman in white robes. "It really is you." When the mysterious person saw Silver Moon, his body shook and he raised his head, revealing his true face. Xianxia. The surrounding cultivators were thrown back into an uproar. Apart from his now jade eyes, the rest of his appearance hadn't changed at all. He was also now staring at Silver Moon with an odd expression. When the other cultivators saw this odd scene, they were at a complete loss. With their vast experience, they knew Xianxia had been possessed. As for the identity of the possessor, it was a complete mystery. The large-headed eccentric took this opportunity to stealthily retreat, at the same time quickly swallowing a medicine pill and placing several talismans on his stumped arm. It was instantly restored in a sudden flash of white. Afterwards, he raised his head and took another look at the possessed man. Under the current circumstances, Han Li narrowed his eyes as thoughts rushed through his head. Whatever was possessing him had most likely summoned Silver Moon there. However, he didn't know what relationship it had to Silver Moon. Could it be a friend or foe? The shock on Xianxia's face faded away and he indifferently said, "Xue Ling. You should have found this place many years ago. I didn't expect you to arrive now. Why has your aura become so much weaker? And why are you possessing the body of a four-pupiled fox? Don't you believe this to be an insult to our status as heavenly Silver Moon wolves?" Silver Moon brushed away the hair from her face and remained silent for a long while before doubtfully saying, "Are you Ling Long?" When the person heard this, a strange expression appeared on his face. He stared at Silver Moon for a moment more before letting out a soft and sweet laugh. "I didn't expect that the greatest beauty of our race, the beloved concubine of the divine wolf Chen Kuei, had lost her memory. I should have guessed as much. Sacred ancestor Yuan Siche's incarnation had forced your soul from our body at the time. It is no surprise it hadn't come out entirely intact. My fine little sister, I'm not Ling Long, I'm Long Meng." When this sweet and charming voice spoke from what appeared to be a man, it gave an odd dissonance. Han Li frowned and had a faint feeling that things would develop poorly. Although he didn't know what relation Silver Moon had with this woman, he faintly heard a trace of schadenfreude directed at her. Silver Moon tensely frowned and stared at Long Meng for a long while, her expression wavering as if something had come to mind. Your words had stirred up a few memories, though they are still very vague. If I am correct, then we are the same. Long Meng's voice turned icy. Humph. So you do remember. In truth, we were originally one person named Ling Long, but when our past self dealt with her 5,000-year tribulation, she cultivated the supreme secret technique of our Silver Moon Wolf clan. But she had made a mistake halfway through and her soul split in two, resulting in the creation of us. However, your primal soul was stronger and you had acted as the master, suppressing me into eternal sleep. But now, matters have turned around. With your primal soul being so pathetic, I can finally eradicate you. Silver Moon's face tensed, but her expression soon grew calm. Although I don't remember much, I do recall the Bloodbite soul imprint. You cannot kill me. If I truly die, you will have nowhere to go. Long Meng's expression grew sullen and green light brightly burst from her eyes. Silver Moon immediately let out a yelp, her body trembling as a huge invisible force struck her. Han Li pursed his lips and reached out to the air without another thought. Suddenly, a large azure hand appeared behind her and dragged Silver Moon out from the attack. Long Meng was startled by this and soon furiously glared at Han Li. Not good. Han Li hastily raised his hand and produced the enlarged form of the Tailstar Essence shield in front of him. A huge explosion shook the air. The surface of the shield violently flashed and several-inch large indents caved into it. Han Li felt his breath turn cold. When the others nearby heard their conversation, they felt as if they had been drenched under a waterfall. The scene had caused them to become restless. Ever since Xianxia appeared, the silver-winged night fiend and the lion hawk were completely perplexed, but after hearing their names, they instantly wore an expression of terror. After briefly exchanging a few words, they stealthily withdrew back in the direction of the exit. When Long Meng saw that her strike wasn't effective, she felt a bit of surprise. However, something came to mind when she thought to attack again. She glanced at him and then at Silver Moon before letting out a smile. Xue Ling. Your scent is heavily present on him and you previously emerged from his spirit beast pouch. Could it be you've become his spirit beast? And so what if I did? Silver Moon coldly replied. A dark expression momentarily appeared on her face. Long Meng let out a fit of sweet laughter and sinisterly said, if that's the case, I must congratulate this person. Even the 3 emperors of the spirit realm wouldn't dare to think of having the beloved concubine of Demon King Qian Kuei become their spirit beast.